With Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 15, we take the story in a direction that no Naruto fan ever thought we'd go, which is into the multiverse, but it's not full-blown in the way that you might see with Marvel Studios, where characters are literally traveling the multiverse itself. Instead, the concept of alternate timelines, it has been introduced, and what it shows is that in nearly every timeline, if things don't go exactly the right way, 95% of the time, the villain wins. However, we'll touch on how Kashin Koji was doing his best Doctor Strange impression a bit later on, because the concept of alternate timelines, it seems to have a lot of people confused. So for now, let's unpack the chapter itself. So we open up where the last chapter left off. Jura is surveying his work from afar, watching as Boruto is fighting to stay conscious after that off-guard Bijudama sniper bullet, and he's lamenting the fact that he's now gonna have to kill Boruto, preparing to fire off another Bijudama at him, this time likely aiming for the head. But before you can do so, we have Bug pop out of Jura's body, and the story manages to subvert expectations in a good way. Going into this, you got the villain with a lethal and long-range set of attacks. He's got the high ground by being in the sky, and so he's got the advantage. If he wanted to kill Boruto, he could, and he was going to kill him. The narrative made you want to believe there's intense action coming, which is why dropping Bug in right here to troll the readers via the subversion expectations is the right thing to do. The benefit to this is that Bug has dropped a lot of new lore on us by revealing that they're now ready for their plan back at the Ten Tails dimension using the black cube that we saw in the last chapter, and Bug states the obvious, that Boruto clearly has someone helping him, which is our first sign of a couple of signs that Kashin Koji, his seat is beginning to grow warmer by the minute, and just as toads and hot water don't mix, Kashin Koji is slowly being heated up to get forced out of hiding at a later point in the story. This leads to Jura and Bug discussing the Thorn Soul, the possibility that Boruto has an ally who told him about it, and they discuss the death of Hidari. What we see next is what makes Jura so dangerous. He stops charging the Bijudama bullet in his Rinnegan and wisely chooses to retreat. While he has Boruto on the edge, he's vulnerable. Killing him might be the smart option. The unknown factor of who is helping Boruto, the possibility that it might be something of a divine intervention at work. It's why Jura is wise to pull back here. There's an unknown variable at play here that he cannot afford to make a move without knowing, even against someone like Boruto that he deems to be dangerous until he has all the information, which is likely something that he read in all those various books he read. Some of them are likely strategy books like the Naruto universe's version of the 48 Laws of Power, which we'll just say that's going to be the 48 Laws of 10-10. So law number 40 of the 48 Laws of Power discusses being wary of the offer of a free lunch, saying that both things given for free and things that seem too good to be true are things you should be afraid of, because there might be strings attached to them or unintended consequences for taking what might seem to be the easier route. Jura has now run into an unknown variable, and he correctly decides to retreat, prioritizing the resurrection of Hidari's Thorn Soul before making another move and gather more intel on a possible divine presence helping Boruto. This leads us to the flashback where we see the 13-year-old Boruto living his life as a rogue ninja following Sasuke's heartbreaking defeat by Code in chapter 5, and we see how much harder things have gotten for Boruto now that Sasuke isn't there to help him. He's deep in what appears to be the Stone Village, and he is struggling to catch his breath as he's hiding, and this is our reminder of just how messed up a situation Boruto's in. He doesn't just have Code looking for him during the time skip, he also has all 5 nations carrying out a manhunt, because Kawaki framed him for the murder of Naruto, and killing someone like Naruto, that's not the same as just killing any regular Kage. So like say killing the current Tsuchikage. Nobody's going to care for the most part if she dies. There'll be people upset, but it won't be on this level. When you kill someone like Naruto, the guy whose chakra cloak shined a beacon of light through the darkness of the 4th Ninja War, and the guy who saved the world on 4 different occasions, twice as the Hokage, you've essentially killed hope itself for the world, which is why the presence of the Stone Village ninja that are hunting down Boruto was so important to see. Up until this point, everything we've seen has been very Konoha centric. This shows you the death of Naruto. It is spread out throughout the ninja world itself. During this time, there's no safe place, and Boruto's now alone, which means there is no Sasuke to take turns on shifts while the other one sleeps. That night where you lay down your head to catch a few hours of sleep, it might be your last time closing your eyes if the wrong person happens to to find you. Boruto likely has a bounty on his head. That's what makes the arrival of Kashin Koji's toad feel so much of a relief for Boruto. He finally isn't alone anymore, even though he is apprehensive of seeing the toad. And the toad even tells him that Boruto shouldn't be scared of him, because if he was working with the enemy, he would have told the 20 Stone Village ninja gathered to kill Boruto exactly where he was. And he gives Boruto a proposition. You can stay here, you can fight these shinobi, you'll likely be forced to kill some of them, or you can go away with me. And Boruto knows his hand is forced. He has no other options. And so he grabs hold of the toad and he is reverse summoned by Kashin Koji. Though Boruto doesn't immediately recognize him, Kashin Koji tells Boruto they're currently in Orochimaru's hideout, just outside the Land of Wind, which, wow, talk about a switcheroo here. All the intel the Shinobi Alliance had about Boruto was that he was in the Land of Earth itself. Now he's in the Land of Wind, in one of Orochimaru's hideouts just outside the Land of Wind, so he is now south of his last location, hundreds of miles away. Kashin Koji reveals that he's taken extra precautions by hiding the entrances to the hideout via genjutsu, once again showing us his superiority over his original Jiraiya, since Jiraiya, his clone parent, sucked at genjutsu by his own admission. Way back in the Pain arc, when the toads tell him, hey, you need to use genjutsu on the 6 paths of pain, and Jiraiya says, I suck at genjutsu. But this clone here is able to pull off all of this very easily. When Boruto asks Kashin Koji who he is, Koji takes out the remaining part of his mask that was not destroyed by Ishiki, and when Boruto sees it as he puts it to his face, he recognizes it's Kashin Koji, which it should be worth noting since there is some confusion here. Boruto never saw Koji unmasked, which is another example of dramatic irony. We know what Kashin Koji looks like without the mask, but Boruto never saw it because Amado's feed that was showing everyone that battle, it cut off before Naruto and company could see Kashin Koji get unmasked by Ishiki. Koji introduces himself as a synthetic human because he was a cyborg clone of Jiraiya that was made by Amado. Basically a human clone who had his body mechanically enhanced by Amado's ninja tech, and this leads to Kashin Koji purposely prodding Boruto for information, asking him if he was truly born into this world as Naruto Uzumaki's child. And Boruto immediately grows suspicious because Boruto knows how omnipotence works. Everyone should have had their memories of Boruto and Kawaki reversed, and even someone as smart as Sasuke, a literal genius, a generational talent, even he was not able to fully see through omnipotence. Even after Ada and Boruto told him the truth, even after he senses Momoshiki and Boruto, Sasuke still had his doubts, but he chose to ignore his memories and believe in his daughter Sarada instead, which, as we all know, drove Momoshiki crazy because it is illogical. In Boruto's experience, normal people, they don't take too well to omnipotence, and so now his guard, it is up as he is answering Kashin Koji's answer with a non-answer, a true shinobi move to make. He doesn't confirm or deny he is Naruto's son, but just by asking if Kashin Koji knows what omnipotence is, that is enough for Kashin Koji to get the answer he is looking for. This one dialogue here is just dripping with ninja trickery, seen through deception. Very brilliant writing here. So Kashin Koji then reveals to us that his memories, like everyone else's, they have been swapped around. In his mind, the cyborg child that Kara raised to be Ishiki's vessel, that was Boruto. Yet he knows that his memory, it is lying to him, that it wasn't Boruto, but instead it was Kawaki. He concedes he doesn't know much about omnipotence, but he understands the general concept of it. Boruto and Kawaki, they switch lives, and as a video game achievement award pops up for Boruto, saying he's gained a new ally / party member, Boruto narrows his eyes because, as you would expect from the student of Sasuke and the grandson of Minato, he's already cautiously poking holes in what Kashin Koji said just to be safe. As we just went over, most people, they can't see past their memories. Most people will ignore their lying eyes and go off of what they remember. Yet somehow Kashin Koji was able to recognize what it was that was going on, and he's acting accordingly despite never being told what omnipotence is by anyone. Boruto's making sure this isn't a trap because you have to remember, as his last memory of Kashin Koji is, he was someone working with Amado, and Amado is now an ally of Konaha. So Boruto has to be cautious, but thankfully for Boruto, Kashin Koji is not working with Amado right now. Koji states that he knew what would happen when omnipotence was casted in advance, which is how he knew what was going on. But he also tells Boruto he regrets having to fight Boruto on the day that he almost killed Konohamaru, but that was his mission as someone who's playing the role of a double agent, working to kill Jigen and then try to kill Ishiki afterwards. And this is where the narrative begins to start weighing you down on your heart, and you see just how much the last year of Boruto's life, it has taken a toll on him. And you see some of Boruto's character development through the suffering he's gone through. He tells Kashin Koji he doesn't begrudge him because he knows how frustrating missions can be, how much of a weight they can carry on his shoulders, and that he's currently struggling with it himself. And as we as readers know, it's for a really good reason. The night that Omnipotence was casted, it changed Boruto's life forever. His parents, they were sealed away. His friend Sarada was almost killed by Kawaki. His life with Kawaki was switched in everyone's minds. The world is now hunting him down for the murder of Naruto. Momoshiki was activating his karma seal to slaughter his friends before Sasuke saved him to prevent that from happening. And a year later, his sensei, his last ray of hope, it was defeated by one of the many people hunting down Boruto. He endured enough that it would break most people, and yet he has no choice but to endure it. Kashin Koji pauses for a moment before answering the question that readers have had on their minds for the last 4 years, which is, how did Kashin Koji survive the battle with Ishiki? Just as Naruto thought, Koji was fighting Jigen with everything he had. He was fighting Ishiki with an intense desperation to live, believing he could win, yet it was futile. And as he lay there waiting for death, trusting that Naruto could finish the job that he failed, he finally awakened a new power that was inside of him. And this is where the lore gets really deep and a lot richer. And all 4 of Amado's remaining defenders, they should be thinking about waving the white flag, because this makes Amado look even more sus. His sussy Baka stocks, they are now going through the roof right now. Koji, as he was on his deathbed, he sees a film tape that appears in front of him, and he sees the future play out right before his very eyes. The battle of Barrel Mode Naruto versus Ishiki, Momoshiki versus Kawaki with this reawakened karma seal, Code and Ada joining forces. He is getting a huge info dump in real time that shows him the end of Boruto Part 1, but also events that we have not seen transpire yet into Blue Vortex, like Gaara's son Shinki being turned into an awakened Shinju, which we know that Shinki, based on the black lines on his cheek as well as the black lines that are around his eyes, Kashin Koji has seen a divine tree produce and a chakra fruit, and it's in that moment his resolve to live, it kicks in, because he knows even if Naruto manages to kill Ishiki, Ishiki will still win in the end. This is what led to Koji to summoning the Toad and reverse summoning himself, because he now has a chance to change the future of what he saw, paying off what Ishiki told him when he unmasked him as being Jiraiya's clone. He said that Koji, like the person he was cloned after, was born under a star of change, and that Amado was betting on Koji having a possibility of changing destiny in the way that Jiraiya did when he died fighting pain, where the decision that Jiraiya made, as the Toad Sage told him, would affect the path that his student he raised would take the world down, which, as we all know, that child of prophecy ended up being Naruto. Though you could twist it a bit and say Naruto and Nagato were both the child of prophecy, the point still stands. This leads to Kashin Koji taking the time to analyze his abilities as he was hiding, comparing it with reality, and basically self-teaching himself. And that's where he came to the conclusion of what happened and what was behind it, and all roads, they lead back to Amado Sanzu. Amado was withholding information from Naruto in chapter 74 and chapter 75. Despite Naruto telling Amado, stop withholding information, this is your last chance, Amado was continuing to play on that naive nature of Naruto that still exists as Hokage. And in typical gaslighter behavior, straight out the school of Makima, Amado crafted a lie that was mixed in with the truth, and it played on Naruto's sympathies. Also, he could hide information from him. He told Naruto that he transplanted into several cyborgs Shibai Otsutsuki's DNA. The Otsutsuki who became a god and mastered every shinjutsu in existence. However, the way that he framed his words, he made it seem like the only people who he gave Shibai's DNA to were Ada, Damon, and Code via the Senrigan, Reflection, and the claw marks respectively. The issue is, though, this wasn't the only case here. All of the car inners are cyborgs who Amado used ninja tech to mechanically enhance their bodies, and that ninja tech all had Shibai's DNA in it as a binding agent. The goal wasn't just for a power boost, but it was also to have them awaken the shinjutsu of Shibai, but it was hit or miss. Koji says that it was largely dependent on a lot of luck. Hence himself, Delta, and Boro, they never awakened shinjutsu, but in the case of Koji, it was awakened when he was on the brink of death. As you recall, after Amado doesn't tell them that Delta possesses Shibai's DNA, he switches gears by conveniently talking about his dead daughter, knowing that Ada would be able to confirm it, and he deflected the entire conversation away from from Shibai by playing on the emotion card. You have to remember that at this point in the timeline, only a few days prior, Naruto just saw his kid killed in front of him. He held the dead body of his firstborn child, and it was only through an act of God by Momoshiki that Boruto was still alive. He manipulated the conversation away from all of this in order to further stop any more questions about Shibai, and it looks like it's by design, given that Kashin Koji's ability of future sight was something that Amado conveniently left out when discussing shinjutsu and Shibai's various powers, including his eye powers. Kashin Koji calls this power the 10 directions, where he's able to see alternate timelines. Think of him like the Watchers from Marvel Comics, who can see what's going on, but also things that have yet to happen and the variant timelines when you get to a trigger point, which is basically a set point in the timeline that is reached and a different decision is made than what is supposed to happen, and it makes a new off branch of the timeline. In one of the timelines that Kashin Koji saw, Ishiki was able to kill Burial Mode Naruto, which isn't crazy given that when you take Naruto's penis out your mouth, Naruto's Burial Mode was wearing off in that fight as it went on, and Ishiki was choking out Naruto, and he eventually stomps him out the form. So the idea that Ishiki could kill Naruto wasn't crazy. In that manga panel, you see various timeline branches that are connected to various different moments, a fork in the road at that trigger point where one decision leads to a different outcome. In most of these, it led to Ishiki killing Naruto and planting the Karma Seal onto Kawaki. Ishiki resurrects in Kawaki's body, he feeds Boruto to the Ten Tails, and then he wins. It's a dark reality, but it is a cold truth. In Naruto's manga, so many things needed to happen just the right way in order to prevent Kaguya from being resurrected, which is why in around 65% of the Naruto with us on this channel, when you change something as small as the Uchiha clan deciding to leave with Madara instead of staying in Konoha, it leads to Kaguya's revival. But if you change something like Naruto learning Flying Raijin or getting the Rinnegan from Nagato or Minato never dying, the world ends with a better outcome than what we have currently. Kashin Koji further cements this by saying that in one timeline that he saw, one where Sarada never awakens from Mangekyo, it results in Boruto and Sarada being killed by Kawaki on the Hokage Rock, which given how that fight went down between Boruto and Sarada and Kawaki, that was believable, which that shocks Boruto when he hears it, because he knows how close he and Sarada came to dying when he got that scar in his eye. In another timeline, Omnipotence is never casted. Code, he beats the brakes off of Kawaki, which means Code gets his first victory off screen, and we have confirmation that Naruto was right, that Code still scaled over Kawaki at the end of part 1. Kashin Koji tells Boruto that once this happens, Boruto gets fed to the Ten Tails, and Code harvests a chakra fruit and it destroys the planet. Koji further tells Boruto they are walking a very tight rope, where the smallest change, it can result in the planet's destruction, which makes the words to Boruto in chapter 4 hit that much harder when Koji asks Boruto, were you trying to destroy the planet? Now, the reason you should be looking at Amado differently is this power of future sight. It should have been mentioned, even if he thought that Koji was dead, because it directly correlates to Ada's Senrigan. The Senrigan eye has two main powers. One is the ability to see into the past up to the moment of birth, and the other is to see everything going on in the present. Kashin Koji's power is to see the future. The three branches of time, the past, the present, and the future, they were available to Shibai's eyes. Now, two of Amado's cyborgs that have that power. As far as the naming of his power being the 10 directions, we'll keep it brief, since by the time you guys have seen this video, I have a video breaking down what the 10 directions are, but the concept of the 10 directions continues to pension the Naruto franchise to mix in Shintoism, Buddhism, Taoism, and Japanese folklore. The 10 directions are the 8 directions of the universe plus up and down, which is a representation of the existence of the Buddha that lands in every direction in every single universe, which has its own separate Buddha. This is why Koji is seeing all those different timelines for every trigger point, or if you're an MCU fan, this is what they would call a nexus event, a set point where you always get to it, but if things go a different way, it makes a new timeline. Each timeline that Koji sees is basically one of the 10 directions. Most of the timelines he sees results in that iconic game over meme of mission failed. We'll get him next time. Back to Boruto. He's initially reluctant to believe all of this, saying it is unnatural, but even he, being as logical he is, as being as skeptical as he is, he can't dismiss the possibility of it being true, and he gets right to the point. How is him knowing all of this going to help him? And Koji answers us in a way that shows that for as much of a prodigy as Boruto is, he still needs a teacher, because he hasn't still grasped the full truth of what it means to be a shinobi. True power, it isn't about how many mountains you can blow up, how many quintillion, septillion jutsu you can use. True power is knowledge. And Koji tells him this, saying that knowledge is the difference between living and dying, basically, which is why even for as weak as someone as Shikamaru is, he is still dangerous, because knowledge and information in the hands of someone with prep time, it can be fatal. We get a pretty expressive scene that kind of overdoes it on comedy in a good way, where Boruto's drawn being super excited, trying to suppress his Naruto-esque mannerisms when Koji offers to teach him all of the ninjutsu and skill that he knows, and the ones that Boruto will need in order to survive, while also making his training more streamlined and efficient. However, before Boruto can celebrate getting a new sensei and adding to his ninjutsu arsenal, Koji warns them that the path that they're embarking on, it is the worst possible future, because it's one where Sasuke can be saved, but it results in the worst possible future for them. Hence, Koji tells Boruto, we're on a tightrope, one mistake, and we're all dead. In short, if Boruto chooses this path, which obviously he does, then Code will lose control of the Ten Tails, and the Shinju, they will awaken, as they have now, and it will result in a large number of them who have their own will and their own desires, and they will be too dangerous to contend with. However, there is one certainty that they can take, one preventative measure they can use, which is to remove the source of the Ten Tails itself, and they can avoid this future, which is basically that black cube. But he tells Boruto the chances for success, they are slim here. That's why if you go back to when Boruto tried to reason with Code, he tells him this is the worst possible outcome if Code doesn't destroy the Ten Tails or take Boruto to where the Ten Tails is, because Boruto knew the future that awaited, and Jesus, this is dark. Jura is confirmed to not only be the leader of the Shinju, but he is also confirmed to be the one who kills Boruto in this timeline, which I'll say it again. If you're not reading Samurai 8, I strongly recommend it, because this is yet another loose nod to Samurai 8 that has been tweaked to fit the Naruto world to tell the Boruto story. Our boy Boruto and our girl Sarada, both of them are in for a world of suffering as we move forward. We then transition back over to the current day, where Himawari, she's regained consciousness, and she rushes over to Sarada to begin healing her wounds by using the Nine Tails chakra, which is crazy to think, because she's got this level of control over Kurama's chakra already, and it's not relying on emotions. And as you expect, both Konoha and Kawaki, they don't understand what's going on, because neither of them know that she has Kurama, which that is a dramatic irony in effect. Before Himawari can heal Boruto, Kawaki stops her, and when Sarada challenges Kawaki, he says he's still going to allow Boruto to be healed, but only under certain precautions. He instructs Konoha to place a chakra suppressant handcuff onto Boruto that Amado made. While he does this, Kawaki picks up Kashin Koji's toad, and he recognizes it before Koji reverse summons it, and we see Kawaki keep that information to himself, and this, my friends, is where it starts to get yucky. Kawaki, prior to this, was already suspicious that someone was helping Boruto. Now Koji's toad has been spotted by him in Konaha, and with Boruto being taken to Shikamaru, the acting Hokage right now, he's going to have to play his next set of cards carefully if you're Kawaki, because the warning that Damon gave him, it is still in effect. Kawaki still is in danger of getting exposed, and things, they're starting to get outside of his control. Now, to be clear, what Damon said, it still applies. People are less inclined to believe Boruto or Sasuke because they are traitors to the village. Their emotions, they're going to be ruling them when it comes to Sasuke and Boruto. As we see when Sarada tries to tell Shikamaru and Konoha that Boruto's innocent in chapter 1. This coupled with Omnipotence is making them look past things that should bother them. He's safe for the most part, but his risk does go up because of this one variable. Omnipotence, it has no bearing on if people believe Naruto's dead or not, simply because that is a lie that Kawaki tells in chapter 80, where he forces Ada to tell it by grabbing her by the neck and forcing her to tell Shikamaru that Naruto was killed by Boruto. Omnipotence was already casted, so this is a separate act. As long as Ada continues to tell that lie, saying she saw it with her Sharingan, nobody is likely to question it. But now you have Kawaki realizing that while they have Boruto in captivity, nobody can read Boruto's mind, otherwise they'll know Naruto's alive, and even though they'll think Kawaki's Naruto's son, that could open up more problems. Meanwhile, as Konaha is preparing to take Boruto in, and Kashin Koji's brooding over the situation, Jura has placed the Thorn Soul onto the cube, and as the branches of the tree move towards the Thorn Soul, it has Matsuri standing watch over the Thorn Soul as it begins getting reshaped, and we end the chapter with the remaining Shinju watching and waiting as the Thorn Soul is finished harvesting to produce a new awakened Shinju. This cliffhanger straight up leaves you with the blue balls between Boruto's future, the Shinju being made, and whether or not Kashin Koji has seen this possibility in one of the alternate timelines we saw, which over here on the left, we have the Naruto What If playlist where there are over 60 what ifs that apply the same principle that Kashin Koji spoke of, where one different decision is made during a trigger point that either leads to a happy ending or an ending where the villains win. And over here on the right, we have a video from my Anime Explained channel where I discuss non-Naruto content.